Busy, we get it. You want to understand the important stuff without, spending hours digging through blog posts.
Exactly. That's what we do here on the Deep Dive.
And today, we are definitely cutting through the noise around Pi Network. Specifically, their recent updates on Mainnet migration and tokenomics.
Yeah, we're looking at their official blog post from April 17th, 2025. It's called Mainnet Migrations Roadmap and Tokenomics.
Right. And our mission, basically, is to pull out the key info you need. The migration plan, Pi token supply, how the mining actually works.
Give you the context, the clarity. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding what's actually going on with this big update.
Okay, sounds good. Let's dive straight into this migration roadmap then. The first thing that really stands out is just the scale, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Tens of millions of people, 6 years of mining history. This isn't your standard airdrop?
Not at all. I mean, think about the verification, the processing needed for that many accounts. Fairly, it's a huge task.
And they've already moved over 12 million.
Yeah, and they highlight that this was done using their own KYC and migration systems with, crucially, no direct fiat cost to the users. It shows the complexity, but also the progress they've made, a big in-house job.
So they've laid out a 3-phase plan for the rest. Phase 1 seems focused on clearing the current queue.
That's right, getting those initial migrations done. We're talking verified base mining rewards.
Security circle rewards.
Lockup rewards, rewards from using Pi apps, and even some confirmed node rewards.
So really the core stuff first. The things that show active participation and network support.
Exactly. It seems like they're prioritizing those, maybe the most, let's say, actively engaged users onto Mainnet first.
That makes sense from a processing standpoint too, maybe.
Probably. It likely simplifies the initial data load. Verifying referral networks, which comes later, is computational, well, heavier. So it feels like a pragmatic step-by-step way to manage it.
Okay, so then comes phase 2. That's dedicated to referral mining bonuses.
But only for KYC verified team members, and importantly, only after phase 1 is done.
Interesting they split that out. What does that signal, do you think?
It really underscores how complex verifying those referral connections must be. Who referred whom? Were they KYC'd?
Right.
Tackling the individual rewards first streamlines things. Then they can focus resources on those, well, more intricate referral webs. It's logical for managing this kind of scale and ensuring accuracy.
And phase 3 is ongoing.
Yeah, ongoing periodic migrations. They said maybe monthly, maybe quarterly, TBD on the frequency.
Okay.
And this phase will scoop up all bonuses and rewards, so it's not like a one-shot deal, it's continuous.
Good to know. So it accommodates growth and latecomers too.
Exactly. Provides flexibility for new users, edge cases, making sure everyone eventually gets their Pi migrated.
Something that could trip people up. The difference between the transferable balance shown in the app versus what actually lands in the Mainnet wallet.
Yes, they address that directly. The UI, they say, uses simplified estimates, mainly for efficiency, computational load on the app side.
But the actual migration involves a much deeper calculation.
Precisely. It digs into the entire mining history, all the sessions, all the bonuses, with much greater precision.
So what's the key takeaway there for someone looking at their balance?
The main point is that the transferable balance figure in the app is presented as a pessimistic estimate, like a floor.
A pessimistic one, okay.
Yeah, meaning the actual amount you receive on Mainnet could very well be higher once the full detailed calculation is done.
So don't panic if the numbers don't match exactly at first glance.
Right. It should actually be reassuring. The final number is calculated carefully.
And just to recap phase 1 clearly, it generally covers everything but those referral bonuses.
Broadly speaking, yes. Base mining, security circle, lockups, app usage, confirmed node rewards, those are targeted for the first wave. Referrals come later.
Okay, clear. Let's switch gears to the token itself. Pi tokenomics, maximum supply, 100 billion Pi.
Yeah.
That was set back in the 2021 white paper.
Correct, and the allocation is clearly
How
defined.
does that break down again?
So 65 billion, the biggest chunk, 65%, is earmarked for community mining rewards.
Okay.
Then you've got 10 billion, or 10% for foundation reserves, 5 billion, 5% for liquidity, and the remaining 20 billion, 20% for the core team.
It adds up. But then they introduce this concept of effective total supply.
Yeah.
It's not the full 100 billion right now. How does that work?
Right, this is a key point. The effective total supply isn't static yet. It's directly tied, proportionally, to how much Pi has actually been migrated as community mining rewards.
Okay, can you give an example? Make it concrete?
Sure. Let's say, hypothetically, 6.5 billion pi has been successfully migrated from the community mining pool. That's 10% of the total 65 billion allocated for mining, right?
Right, to 10%.
Then the effective total supply at that moment would be 10% of the maximum 100 billion supply. So 10 billion pi.
Ah, I see. So the total circulating supply, or effective supply, grows as more community rewards are migrated.
Exactly. And critically, all the other allocations, the foundation's 10%, the liquidity's 5%, the core team's 20%, they scale proportionally within that effective total supply.
So the foundation doesn't suddenly have 10 billion pi if only 1 billion is effectively circulating.
Precisely. If the effective total supply is 10 billion, the foundation reserve would be at most 10% of that 10 billion, so 1 billion pi at that point. The percentages hold relative to what's actually been migrated and made effective.
Okay. That's an interesting mechanism. It ties the release of all tokens to the community's migration progress.
That seems to be the design. They state it aligns incentives for everyone, the core team, the foundation, the community, with successful mainnet migration.
And they also clarify, all 100 billion tokens technically exist since Genesis.
Meaning the moment the blockchain was created.
Right, but they're locked and only released according to the structure. They aren't, like, printing new pi constantly.
Correct. The total potential supply is fixed. It's the unlocking and distribution mechanism that's tied to migration and the allocation rules.
Got it. Okay, let's talk mining. The pi mining mechanism. They say it's not just for growth, but also decentralization, utilities, stability. How does it actually work now?
Well, the core principle, laid out in the white paper, is this declining exponential decay model for rewards.
Meaning rewards decrease over time.
Essentially, yes. The base rate was higher earlier on and gradually slows down. This makes early participation more rewarding in terms of quantity.
But individuals can boost their own rate, right?
Absolutely. That's where contributions come in. Things like building your security circle, actively using Pi apps that have utility, running a node. These all act as multipliers on your individual mining rate.
So it encourages more than just tapping a button.
Definitely. It incentivizes actions that secure the network, build the ecosystem, and contribute resources.
And they mentioned a monthly cap on distributed pi. How is that determined?
Yeah, there's a system-wide base mining rate determined by their decay model. This rate effectively sets the total pool of Pi available for mobile mining distribution each month. Your individual reward, with all your multipliers from contributions, is calculated based on that base rate. So even with high contributions, your earnings are still relative to that overall, generally declining base rate.
So being early helped and staying active continues to help maximize your share of a diminishing monthly pool.
That's the idea. Incentivize early bootstrapping and long-term engagement to keep the network healthy and useful.
Okay, makes sense. Let's try and wrap this up. What are the absolute must-know takeaways for our listeners from all this?
Okay, first, the Mainnet migration. It's a phased, complex process. Given the scale and history, they're prioritizing accuracy